Within each and every role player lives this homeless character who wants nothing more than to quiet the heartbeat of every living thing that stands in his way. Today we celebrate this all too familiar character with...
Well now, looky here. It's the Murder Hobo Show.
Welcome to the Murder Hobo RPG Show, Episode 9, Lost Colonoscopy, recorded January 8th, 2020. I am one of your hosts, Gary, a.k.a. the Murder Hobo, and I am here with Uncle J-Raz, a.k.a. Captain Cole, and Dr. Fartbuster, Thunder Tush, or his wrestling alter ego, Nacho Man, Randy Shortsmell.
See, I like as the co-host, I get the bigger introduction. How's it going there, Kid IBS, the Porty Potty Pulverizer, the Burger King Blaster, my Canadian cohorts?
Wow, I didn't even notice in the show notes that you had put all that stuff in there, but that's pretty sweet.
Right, snuck that in there so you didn't see it. So how you been, man?
I'm doing all right. We got through the Christmas rush. I spent way too much money, like irresponsible adults do when they have children that they spend their money on. My stove blew up December 23rd, and I got 20 people coming over. The stove lights up. Yeah, it was fantastic. What about you? How was your Christmas? Was it good?
Oh, it was excellent. It was nothing bad happened. Nobody threw any knives at each other this year. Mom didn't have to cut anybody. And actually, the new mother-in-law, nobody scrapped over their house. It's weird because going over their house, they don't fight over there.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's so bizarre. It's like everybody's so quiet, nice, and polite. They have napkins on the table over there, where we only have gauze and bandages over at my house to clean up the blood, or over at my folks' house. Yeah. And anyway, it's a whole different environment, man. I've really escalated or moved up in the world. So
every room has a first aid kit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice. All right. Well, this is a podcast about role-playing games, and as usual, we are going to ramble incoherently in an attempt to sound like we know what we're talking about, and hope you don't call us on our bullshit. What are we doing?
That's right. We're going to talk about Deadlands Lost Colony. The PDF, the beta PDF for all intents and purposes released today. But you and I both looked over it, and woo, daddy,
it's a hunka burning love. Man,
I don't know what's hotter, this hot potato or this thing that's going on here, and that's dumb. I don't know why I said that, but we'll, hopefully, I know you're going to leave it in it, so I'm not even going to ask.
Right.
So go ahead.
I was going to say it's either a hunka burning love or one of my STDs is flaring up again.
Oh, really? I thought that Santa Claus brought you some or some penicillin.
No, Vagisil.
That's what.
Yeah. I don't know what he was thinking.
Right.
That's too funny. So other than that, the holidays were all right. You got any New Year's resolutions? And did you get any gaming done over the holidays? Actually,
we did. I did get some gaming done over the holidays. Started Titan Effect with the other group, and man, they're already into it. Once they realize what kind of characters you can make in Titan Effect, and I don't know if you and I have talked about it a little bit, but you can make these international type characters. My nephew Matthew, who's when you talk about role players, there's different types. There's the actor and there's the specialist and everything. Matthew is more or less the actor, and so he got a chance to play like a crazy Russian guy who's a pyrokinetic, and so he calls himself Chernobyl. And so he goes around.
Nice.
Yes. So he goes around, talking crazy in a Russian accent. And so we had them rescue this. We ran the Jumpstart for Titan Effect. And we had them. Actually, I don't want to spoil it here because I think the wife, they might be checking it out here this week. So let's just say we ran the Jumpstart and it went off pretty well. It went a lot better than I expected. And we had a lot of fun. What about you, my dude? Did you get in any gaming over the holidays?
What did I do? So I was going to run some Gartar, but I got busy doing some stuff. I managed to take apart my display cabinet that I keep all my RPG stuff in, and I reworked it with a Google Home LED light strip inside of a diffuser, so it sort of diffuses the light, it spreads it out. You're not looking at like sharp LED pinpoints. I can tell the Googster to change the color of the lights and do all of that stuff. So yeah, I didn't get around to doing my Gartar. I did play I did a Christmas special. I can't even remember what time it is, but yeah, I did a couple of maps on TTS. I think they're out there, you can see them. Had my players roll in. They on their way back to New Haven from the last adventure they were on, they came to this windy path. No, they came to where the campfire was, where they blew up the horse. The horse died, and the the merchant, Milon, or whatever his name was, he had a campfire there. Well, by this campfire, there was a portal, and there was a voice calling to them from inside this portal. So they hopped in and ended up portaling into this sort of like weird crossroads section. And this guy was like, ho, 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 we need help. Ho, 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 right? So they all hopped in, and they fought a bunch of sweet-looking blue elves and stuff like that in this cool little snowy forest scene they had inside of a tabletop simulator. And an old traveler who looks like hippie Santa. I want to say he was kind of like a crossover between the Dude with like a really long beard and like a Hawaiian shirt. And that's what he looked like anyways. But yeah, he basically said there's a bunch of cultists that are trying to summon Krampus. And they needed to be stopped. So what I did was, on my second map, I had this tower. On top of the tower, I had this orb that had Krampus in it. And then there was like sort of, I want to say stations. There was a cave, there was a campfire, there was a bridge. There was a house, like a gingerbread house, in different sections of the map. And in each section, there was like this goat head cross. And cultists were like, doing rituals on these crosses and stuff like that. So if my players had shot the crosses, that would have done some stuff. But each one was sort of like a little 5-part intricate puzzle of doing things. I almost killed 2 people, so that was pretty cool. And in the end, they all won anyway. So yeah, they got presents, which was each one of these little positions had a box. So there was like a present, I should say. I had a little present box there. And once they killed the merchants, they could go open the boxes. But there was a 1 in 4 chance that the box would actually be a mimic. And I got to spring a Christmas present mimic on my players, which was pretty cool. The box turned in and started attacking them and stuff.
I don't know. That is pretty remarkable. I'm happy for you, but I'm kind of sad for your players that think that they're going to open something and then they're going to get then a mimic pops out. But then again, that is classic. That's classic stuff.
Printable Heroes, man. He did this whole like Krampus set, so I wanted to use all of the tokens, get some value for my money. So I threw them all in Tabletop Simulator, and away I went. It was fantastic. I had a lot of fun doing that. And I don't know if I think this Sunday coming up is my next game, is the pickup game. Oh no, see, I gamed twice. I'm not going to go into details on my second game, but the second game is a continuation, DDX E14. They got to go underneath the Valhingen graveyard, which is in my campaign. It's the New Haven graveyard, and explore this underground tomb. There's going to be some cool stuff happening there. Spectral hounds, because they're probably not going to listen to this podcast before I get it out. So, yeah, I got a spectral groundskeeper, and he's got this chain on his hand, and so I'm going to make the chain of this magical weapon that allows this groundskeeper guy that's been he looks like a reanimated Frankenstein kind of a guy with this blue chain, and then these dogs are like the same color blue as the chain, right? So I'm like, he whips these chains out in front of him, psh, dog appears, and every round he'll be able to summon like up to 4 dogs. So they'll constantly being attacked by these spectral dogs, and then once they kill him, I'm going to have the chain, he'll fade away, like he'll just turn to dust kind of a thing, but he'll leave that chain there, and I'm going to give that chain to one of my players.
Yes.
Eh?
They earn that. No, that's a good little gift.
He'll be a badass. He's gonna kick ass and take some names. He's got like Undead Scream and a bunch of other stuff. So, and then these dogs, right? These dogs are like goblins. They hunt in packs, and so they get advantage on attacks and stuff like that. It's gonna be awesome, dude. I'm really looking forward to when I get to mash their faces with this guy.
Don't you love just sitting there thinking about, especially like when you're on the toilet or whatever, and thinking of like a way to really a good like big bag guy to just throw up against your players.
Well, most of what I do in the toilet is trying to keep it in the bowl.
No thought process, anything. Right? It's just total concentration. I see where it's going. You have to channel all your focus, all your aim into the trajectory.
and then I'm like, did I get some on my sock? Did I hit the side of the wall? Did something splash on? You ever sit on your poop?
Man, too many times to count. This is a surprise too.
Oh, fantastic! All right, well, this is going to conclude the introduction section of this podcast. Poop sitters.
Lost Colony.
Colonoscopy. All right, Uncle Jay, Lost Colony. What is Lost Colony? Lay it on me.
All right. So I don't know if you've ever checked out this setting in Savage Worlds, because I know that you're kind of a rook. I don't know if you've ever heard of something called Deadlands. I don't think it's anywhere. I don't think you'd be interested.
No, sounds lame.
Sounds lame. No, are we kidding? Deadlands is arguably the best setting in Savage Worlds. Yeah, I said it.
Wow.
Yeah, I said it. I'm going to put that out there. Well, actually, Deadlands is what brought me to the Savage Worlds dance.
What happened to Wise Guys? I thought Wise Guys was the best.
Well, I'll tell Eric to his face later.
Okay.
In all seriousness, Deadlands is what brought me to Savage Worlds, because I had never played a Wild West setting, and also too, discovering that this was a Weird West setting also piqued my interest a little bit more, because it wasn't just the standard, cowboys and Indian sort of fare, or that sort of thing. There was something weird about it. And and so this is this is Deadlands, which everybody, I believe, if you're a fan of Savage Worlds, you kind of know and love. And if you don't, you're a fool. I'm just going to put out, you need to educate yourself. Seriously, you're probably a booger eating loser,
Wow.
who sniffs his own butthole.
Hey, maybe you're a booger eating cool guy, but you're still a booger eater.
That's true. I don't know if you eat a booger, man. You might be cool. I don't know. But what I'm getting at here is Deadlands is it's pretty much what Savage Worlds was built on. So everybody, if you like Savage Worlds, I'd say it kind of goes hand in hand. But anyway, I digress. Deadlands, it's a Weird West setting, but what they've done is they've taken it and they've moved it off Earth and they moved it to another planet.
Did you just hit your mic again?
With my fingertip. I didn't smack it like I karate chopped it like I do normally. I just went.
Man, pro podcasters right here.
The thing about that is, Gary, you got to give me a little leeway, because I'm getting passionate and I'm starting to be a little animated. I'm starting to talk a little bit with my hands here, because Deadlands, once they moved it off planet, my brain went ka-tow. You've seen that GIF, right, where the guy's head just goes wow like that. I said, what? Not only is just playing a Western just like one of the coolest things that you can, especially Deadlands, because it's such a unique setting. But you take all the elements to the Wild West sort of the hard scrabble life that you have, and you move it off planet. That's something else. If you want me to, I can go into a lot of the history, but essentially it's Wild West. God. No, we know how we do about history. It's all Cliff Notes over here, baby. Mm-hmm. You get it fast and quick. Just like my honeymoon night. The
original Deadlands takes place in like the 1800s, 1860, something like that. There's a great big cataclysm. We find this new material called ghost rock. Basically, it's usable in everything. And that's the old sort of Weird West. The ghost rock doesn't really mutate people, but they start using it to build robots and steam machines and all sorts of other stuff. And it's a Weird West, right? So you got your vampires and you got other things like that going on. And
got zombies. Right. Zombies are weird, and everything's powered, and demons are pretty much in control of what's going on. Fast forward to about 2097, the big man scientist of Deadlands, Darius Hellstrom, figured out a way to erect the tunnel.
I thought the part where so he's way back from the 1860s, but with this ghost rock and all the stuff that he did, somehow this guy does all these weird, cool, crazy things, making robots, transplanting brains and minds inside of these things, and he basically turned himself into a cyborg. So hundreds of years later, when this thing kicks up, he's still going. And I was reading that, and I was like, oh man, Hellstrom is still in this.
If you know anything about Deadlands Hell on Earth, they talk about where he's still been around, and this sort of takes place. Deadlands Hell on Earth, I think, what takes place around on like 2085. This takes place around like 2097, where they've colonized this other planet called Banshee. It's off in another system, what they call the faraway system. In fact, that's what they call the sun. There's roughly a few planets that hang out in this solar system. But there's only one that's really inhabitable, and it's called Banshee. And it's called Banshee because the winds are just crazy there on this planet. There's some habitable areas. In fact, it's already habitated by by these purple and pink skinned aliens called. Well, they're not aliens to the planet, but you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. They're called Anuks, and they're larger than humans and whatnot, and they sort of live very kind of like primitively. They don't have a lot of technology. In fact, you'd say that they're about roughly 19th century Native American, sort of, lifestyle that, that sort of way.
This is where
hunter-gatherer.
Yeah, this is where the cool Indians versus cowboys kind of thing kicks in, but now it's like the Indians are space aliens on this planet called the Anuk, and the cowboys are like super high-tech advanced military, ops kind of guys. You hit page 8 in this book, and you see a picture of this Anuk wearing his like chitinous armor, and he's like riding some kind of sweet green-looking T-Rex sort of mixed with a horse kind of a thing. Right away I saw that and I'm like, wow, man, John Carter and what was the freaking movie with the blue monkeys or the blue cats that I always talk about?
Oh, Avatar.
Avatar. Yeah. And I'm like, Avatar, because they're primitive, they're lizard-like, they're 6-7 feet tall, something like that, 6 to 9 feet tall, depending on whether or not you're male or female.
There was travel back and forth between Banshee and Earth at one point in time. But then when the Great War went off on Earth, there was a big ghost rock explosion. Essentially, an apocalypse happened on Earth. The tunnel collapsed and everybody was cut off. So now, well, in the future, in 2097, these guys have no way back to Earth unless they're just kind of hoping that somebody, maybe on Earth, that they're going to develop this hyperdrive ship that got them there in the first place, but nobody's been able to replicate it. So they're kind of effed. As far as communication. So they're just trying to make it out there on their own. So they are really, really pioneers.
Oh, for sure.
Of this whole area.
That cool last ship was called the Unity inside of this thing. And it has some special FTL drive on it that, like you said, it's not, I think they can replicate it, but I think the thing is it's really, really like outrageously expensive to operate this ship. So it wasn't feasible to go back and forth. This Unity, whatever the drive is, it could make the trip from Earth to here and then back or whatever. Probably, who knows how long it takes, probably 10, 20 years kind of a thing, as fast as this thing can go with its technology. But it's like you said, it's not, you couldn't make enough ships with this Unity drive on it. So when they got there, they built this, what is that? It's like a gate, right? Between Earth and this place. And now you can just sort of pop back and forth. Did you read the frickin' like sort of the history and stuff like that? Because it is like riddled with just horrible things that happen to these people, man. The disasters that go on, the wars. This dude shows up and starts blowing everybody up, and then they're like, "F you, man. We're gonna make a world storm," and us. It's just like, what is going on here?
It was insane. Just reading everything, just the whole history. Normally, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes, I mean, this is the part. You should be reading it as a GM, but this is the part you kind of like skim through. But I was sitting, as soon as I picked this up, I was riveted because I was like, what the hell is going to happen to these people next, man? Because there's 3 wars that happen, and then there's 3 wars that happen. Then there's this the world storm, as they call it. And now everything is just starting to settle. But then, as you read, if you start reading into the campaign, you're like, man, we've only just scratched the surface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this world storm happens, and we're talking like hurricanes and gale force winds and things it describes the wind blowing so fast that it could literally render the flesh off of your bones. And these storms are like taking out entire settlements, just disappeared into the howling winds. And they're saying that these storms were created by this, what do they call them, the skinnies or something like that, which is... They're kind of a nuke, but they look like shriveled. I'm thinking they almost are harrowed.
They're kind of harrowed a nuke. You would almost think that, but they're like super psionic a nuke. That they use their power so much that they've like that their bodies look all emaciated and shrunken like a Lamaroo. Maybe Lamaroo's super psionic. I didn't ever think about that. Holy crap! He's probably reading my mind right now.
Wow!
All his energy went into his nose.
Wow!
Oh, shit. I never thought about that.
So we're gonna take a couple steps back from body shaming Lamaroo what were we going on here? So before this big world storm, you had a couple other events. We land on the planet. We're trying to make peace. We're talking to these people. We didn't come here for Ghost Rock, which was kind of funny. I guess they came here because it was the nearest settlement or something like that, like the nearest planet or whatever it is, right? And there's more to it, but you can only describe so much because there's player knowledge and GM knowledge and stuff like that. So we got to sort of walk a thin line with that. But essentially, they show up on the planet. They find this other race, the Anuks. They realize that there's ghost rock here at some point. And then, back on Earth, they realize there's only 20 years or something like that, of ghost rock left. And that starts like a whole bunch of wars, which is why you find out why the gate collapsed and stuff at the other end and you get stuck. But there's this one section I wanted to tag onto here was this General Paul Warfield. Did you read the section on this guy? Oh, man.
You mean General Overkill?
General Overkill shows up with his X4 guys, and he's like, yeah, I have a tendency to do things overkill. So General Warfield basically shows up in his spaceship and starts carpet bombing the entire planet with and it's like, man, it's just one horrible destruction after another with this bloody thing, man. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, and so we're left. So that's where we're at right now, as far as where the setting takes place. 2097. Banshee is cut off from the rest of humanity, in the sense that there's not going to be anybody rescuing them from Earth. There are means of production. There are means of of maintaining civilization there on Banshee, and the solar system does provide some means of resources as well. But man, Banshee, just read, if you've taken a look and read about Banshee, I don't know, man. It sounds like Utah/Wyoming, only really, 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 really horrible.
Yeah, only everything's trying to kill you. The faraway timeline is actually pretty cool. All of these sort of little tidbits get broken down into like a decent read. So 2039, the Unity discovers far away. 2044, Hellstrom unveils the tunnel. 2052, Ghost Rock is discovered on Banshee, and that's when the Ghost Rock rush begins. Hundreds of 300,000 people come to this planet because they realize there's Ghost Rock here. 2072, you get skirmishes between colonists and the Anuks. They intensify, so now you're starting to get some of this inner war because basically the humans are like, yeah, we're just going to come take your stuff.
Yeah.
Right? You get the Crosstown Massacre, which starts the first faraway war. So this massacre you can read in detail. Basically, the humans come. They're like, we want to settle. We're gonna put a little hut right here. Don't worry, we won't go over there. And then all of a sudden, the humans are over there, and so what the Anuk would do is they take the humans, I guess, beat them up a little bit and put them back where they were supposed to be. And so a bunch of humans were like, F that. So they killed 4 Anuks. And that starts this whole war because now the Anuks are like, yeah, screw you guys, man. We're going to start raiding your villages and blowing everything up. It's like, man. So
and the Anuks are big.
Yeah, they're big and tough, dude.
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't go poking, I don't go to the zoo and take a stick and start poking bears and start poking tigers, man. So I don't know. It takes a lot for me to. I can't grasp that concept.
Yeah,
you were saying cool though.
Yeah, that little Crosstown Massacre starts off with a couple of people being killed. So the United Nations Expeditionary Force, which is X4, you hear a lot about those. Back on Earth, the United Nations puts together this force under this General Paul Warfield guy in response. He shows up and carpet bombs the place. Vanessa Hellstrom, daughter of Dr. Darius Hellstrom, assumes control of Hellstrom Industries in Faraway because now he's built not only the tunnel, but there's a space station here as well that she takes over and does experiments with Ghost Rock, right? 2075, you got Warfield and the X4 arrive and basically begin a full-scale war with the Anuks. That's where the psychic skinnies awaken and retaliate. They start the world storm and stuff. 2076, the Psychic Legion, in retaliation to the Skinnies, they go back to Earth in the Unity and pick up a bunch of psychics and bring them back to Banshee to fight these crazy ass friggin' Skinnies. 2078 that's the last war starts on Earth. That's when they realize that we're running out of Ghost Rock. Earth does some stuff and boom, tunnel's closed. 2081, the tunnel closes. We still got another, 10 years? What happens in 2082?
They're in August 13th. That's when the Unity it's commandeered from Hellstrom Industries, and it's ordered to transport the Psychic Legion back to Earth. Because what happens if you're not familiar with the Deadlands, the entire timeline, The big date is September 23rd, 2081. That's when the big ghost rock bomb goes off, and then that's when Hell on Earth takes over. That's when that scenario starts, because that's essentially, the apocalypse. And so the tunnel is pretty much it's blown up. So that's why it says it's closes. There's no way back from the faraway system to our system. So just want to preface it by saying that, though. So in 2082, on August 13th, the Unity is commandeered from Hellstrom Industries in order to transport the Psychic Legion back to Earth, because they need psychics back there. So in 2083, the World Storm last. We talked about the World Storm where the Skinnies, made that happen. They made pretty much like a mine tornado that pretty much took over the planet and lasted for 40 days and nights. X4 retreats off planet. They go to base 1, which is a moon that's orbiting this brown dwarf planet called Chanukara, and that's beyond this asteroid belt that they have there in the faraway system. 2084, Hellstrom Industries launches the transmuter program to help with the severe lack of manufacturing. Transmuters. We'll know them as transmuters right now, but they're not going to be transmuters for long, are they?
No, which sucks, because that would be awesome. That is a kick-ass class right there.
Right. In 2090, Operation David. This is where X4 seizes Goliath's belt, and they claim the entire belt. So they pretty much just lay claim to the whole asteroid belt. And in 2094, X4, they launch Operation Typhoon, where they attempt to take Banshees back from the rebellious quote-unquote colonists, but they fail. And so what they end up doing, they attack Tunnel Station. They unleash the X4 virus. So they corrupt the nanobots that make up these transmuters. That the transmuters, what they can do is they have the ability to psychically rearrange and create metal objects. So they can invariably, if you're enough power, you can make a spaceship out of scrap.
Now, is it just metal, or is it anything? Because they basically they're in control of nanobots that they keep inside their bodies. Yeah.
And so they keep the source. So I don't think it specifies, but I just kind of imagine like it can. They just whatever kind of scrap and whatever's there. It just well, actually, it's not so much metal, but inorganic material.
Okay.
I think that's the better phrase. I think that we need to say, because it might not be metal, it might be something else, but I think it's sort of inorganic. If you look at one of the powers that these guys have, I think it's like the ability to render like inorganic material pretty much, inoperable.
Nice. So, man, them being transmuters would have been sweet, because they can break it down and rebuild things into other stuff. So, you come across a bridge, you're like, I need a bike, I need a hover bike to get back to town. Here's a bridge. I'm going to take this bridge and turn it into a hover bike. You spend a day, your nanobots are doing their business. But this is the crap part, is that the like you're saying, the X4 virus shows up and basically cuts them in half. They can no longer transform. They can just break stuff apart. So they become breakers.
Yeah, and so that's all they can do. All their nanobots, all they can do is just render this inorganic material down. It can't build back up anymore. So it can tear stuff down. It's good for like clearing stuff away, but like, what are you going to do with all that?
Right.
So, and in 2096, so that's where we're at as far as like the transference from muter to breaker. And so that's a pretty recent occurrence. In 2096, the Unity crash lands on an uninhabited second continent of Banshee. Because it's funny, Banshee has 2 continents, and they're called what? 1 and 2. How clever. So it crash lands on the second uninhabited continent. Who knows or what it was carrying remains unknown. So that's where the Unity's over there on the other continent. It's over there on 2, where everything's happening on 1. And now we're in 2097. So that's kind of the status quo where we are.
Yeah, we're going to do a little bit of math here. So the Unity is commandeered from Hellstrom Industries in order to transport the Psychic Legion back to Earth. That happened in 2082. 2096, so it's like you're looking at 14 years for this ship must have taken for it to get here, possibly. I guess that would be, 7 years. 7 years to get back to Earth and 7 years to get back here. Minimum, unless it was doing something like having a party over there for a couple of years, kind of a thing. I did not know that about Hell on Earth. It happened in 2081. So Hell on Earth is the Deadlands version of post-apocalyptic.
That's right.
The 1920s and 1930s, John Goff wrote Deadland Noir, which is sort of old timey. Where does it take place, in Georgia? No.
New Orleans.
New Orleans, yeah. Takes place down there, and it has this southern detective feel to it, and you're dealing with voodoo and stuff like that, right? Which is pretty cool. So there's the Deadlands universe is quite huge, but we're right now up in 2097. We've explained everything from 2040 to 2097, and this is where we pick up. So we start making characters from here.
Yep. You can go into a little bit more about what happens in Banshee, but yeah, let's make some characters, man. You turn to you flip to page 29, and they kind of, I've always liked this idea too, where it just kind of like Savage Worlds doesn't tell you what to make, but it's going to give you some ideas. It's going to tell you that this is hard and fast what to make. It's always going to give you like a little helping hand in case you're not sure where to buy in as a character. Some examples that they give you are like the Anuk Shaman. And you're usually a shaman in your Deadlands games, aren't you? Or no, you're usually a blessed, and this is sort of like the equivalent, I would say.
The equivalent, yeah, the Indian equivalent for sure.
Mm-hmm. So that might appeal to you because you're going to be able to actually get some new powers as the Anuk Shaman. In fact, what's cool is you're offered 3 new arcane backgrounds. You get the Anuk Shaman being one of them, Breaker being the second one, and the Psyker being the third. But like over here, you got the Anuk Shaman. You can be an Anuk Warrior, and so these guys, if you don't want to have to play with magic or anything like that, you can just wield a big ass axe and just cut the poor humans in half if you want to.
Not only that too, so you might think that because they're a backcountry hillbilly bunch of Indians with their little stone tipped spears and stuff like that, they actually have this other, I don't want to say ghost rock like material, but they have this material that's called tannin or tannis or tanner or something.
And it's tannis. And
the shamans can infuse it with energy, and this stuff, when you put it onto like a weapon, it will cut right through armor. So they're actually pretty deadly as a race, these Anuk, with their old school weapons and stuff.
Yeah, they know how to manipulate. They actually, it's very clever how they've done this. How they allow the Anuk to manipulate different parts of the planet that like the regular colonists can't do. So if you happen to take an Anuk Shaman as remember making an Anuk Shaman as a character, you have to make sure that you have Tannis touch because you have to be able to manipulate the Tannis. But I tell you what, it's not a bad edge to take because you can do a lot with it. You can use that Tannis as a weapon. You can use it as armor.
Yeah,
and you can manipulate it and bestow it different different properties. In fact, what is it? There's the other material that I want to say that they use too. I want to say it's called like a Zuli, which lets you bestow different sort of properties too. I want to say that these guys have too. So the Anuk, just being by virtue of them being able to know the planet and everything, they get a lot of benefits to a lot of their sort of knowledge. Sort of like being if you're Native American or whatever, you're gonna have especially if you're playing that sort of, especially in Deadlands, you're gonna have like tracking knowledge and you're gonna have like survival knowledge, just just sort of inherent to your being. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but before we get into character creation too, there's Banshee today. It tells you there's a little bit about what's going on in the solar system. What's what, who's who. You've got the belt, which now brings in the expanse, like we were talking about earlier. You got belters that live out there in the belts and stuff like that, and you could be like a salvager going from asteroid to asteroid because there's a lot of ghost rock out there too. So you can even be like a single miner going out minding your own business when stuff happens, right? Yeah. Banshee is the only inhabitable planet. You've got Tunnel Station, which is the Hellstrom Industries orbital space station. Not the tunnel itself, but or maybe it is, but it's inactive at this side. So that's Hellstrom Industries is the Tunnel Station. Goliath's Belt is the largest station serving the belt. So this is just a place in the belt. It's like there's a bunch of like when I was reading it, this is actually pretty funny. There's a bunch of little like bars and towns in the belt that are just built into asteroids. One of them is a brothel, but the brothel has like gravity drives on it, so it moves around. So they can ever be tracked down by X4, which is pretty cool, right? And then you've got a bunch of different places and stuff like that. You've got on Banshee, it breaks it down into continent 1 and 2 kind of a thing. So you got Tornado Alley, Toxic Jungle. There's some subtropical deserts it breaks down. There's a place called Ghost Rock City, New Hope, Red River Canyon. And all of these places have some really cool and interesting sort of backstories behind them and whatnot. There's a place called Castle something or other, which is basically where was the last sort of holdup of the Anooks that was on there. And then, yeah, like you said earlier, 1 and 2 are the 2 continents. Wow. The bodies of water are the High Chop Sea. Hiya! Chop! The Black Valley is a valley that caught on fire in sort of between these 2 mountain peaks. And it's literally like just black scorched sort of death that's in there, which is, who knows what you're going to find when you're rolling around in there, right? And then there was this Thule. I'm wondering what's going on in here. There's like some kind of volcano, and then it's like who's who. So we should talk about them too. You got the Anooks, which are the race, these purple looking sort of dudes. They come in multiple colors and stuff like that. You got Colonial Rangers, which are sort of, how would you describe them? They're sort of like the Western regular Rangers, right?
Yeah, they're like the planetary marshals. They're like the sheriffs of the town. There's not a whole lot of them. They're just sort of like they decided that these guys needed to, at one point in time, they just sort of decided that they're going to go ahead and become their own law force. They decided, if there's going to be a colony, then they need to, there needs to be some sort of law enforcement. So they all got together and did this. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of them.
Right during the initial. I want to say excursions, but I know that's not incursions. Yeah. During the initial humans landing, talking to the Anooks and stuff, there was all these little skirmishes that were happening. So they created this group called the Colonial Rangers to show up and sort of keep the peace. Draw up a bunch of treaties and stuff like that. You've got X4, which is the United Nations Interplanetary Expedition Force guys. So they're basically the military from the United Nations. You got Hellstrom Industries, which you're going to be your science guys. All of them, working up on there. And now, so the Reapers was one that is during Warfield's attempt to seize control of the Fairway system. There's some guy managed to secure a full pardon from a newly formed colonial government for himself. So they're called the Reapers. So there's this other group of Reapers, which are kind of like outlaw bandits. And then you've got the Skinnies that you almost never see, right? Like the Skinnies at some point are described as showing up, wreaking havoc, and then basically they sort of just disappear. And at some point people are like, well, were they ever really even here, or were they just stories that were made up?
Right. But the people who fought in the war say, oh, they were there.
They were there.
We seen them, man,
Yeah, so back to character creation. You got the shamans, you got the warriors, you got the archaeologists, bounty hunters. There's a bunch of character concepts of cool things that you could be. There's also only 2 races, is there not? There's just the Anooks and the humans?
Just the Anooks and humans. I'd say that's about it. It doesn't really specify there. But, all right, let's be 100% real here. When you start reading into this, man, this kind of, I don't think it could came out at a more perfect time, because what is hot right now, essentially a Western on another planet, and that's being the Mandalorian. And you got a bounty hunter kind of character concept of right here. There ain't nothing stopping you from being from playing a bounty hunter with a helmet on, and you picking up a little Anook baby that can move things with his mind, That's all I'm saying.
Baby Anook. Yeah, right on. Yeah, for sure, man. Bounty Hunter's sweet looking class.
Yeah. I can't. I don't know if I don't know if we should talk about this right now. I want to, though. I just want to go ahead and just jump into it. I mean, because if you can play like the traditional people, like that usually in a Western setting, sort of like a deserter, a prospector. You can play a drifter. You could probably play an old cook if you wanted to, or an explorer, whatever. But what's really sort of appealed to me are these 3 new arcade backgrounds, Gary.
Why is that? Which one would you play?
The Breaker, man. The Breaker sounds cool. But then again, I say Breaker. Have you looked at what the Psyker can do?
No, I didn't. When my whatchamacallit was reading it back to me. So here's the other thing. So some of the Psychers, I guess they stayed, because I think most of them went back to Earth, right? But I guess apparently some of them stayed, so you could be a Psycher. But they're not quite as powerful as they're equal to, I guess, I don't want to say the Shaman. I guess they are equal to the shaman, right? Psychers and shamans are just basically your human and your Anook version. But when it comes to the skinnies, these psychers are like they're like little baby mental people compared to.
Oh yeah. They don't have near the abilities that the skinnies have. But that's not to say that these psychers can't hold their own. There's a lot of powers. In fact, what they end up doing here, they go back to if you look back at like Deadlands, Hell on Earth, and everything, that's where you start seeing a lot of the psychers too, and they just start moving them over here. But they have transferred some of the powers over from Hell on Earth to the psychers over here on this setting. And I'm going to tell you, Gary, I don't know if you know anything about this one power called telekinetic squeeze, but it's essentially like you're able to rip organs and something out of a person's body, or just crush them, crush like rib cages and crush, livers and spleens. And what you have to do is opposed roll the psychic psionic against the victim's vigor. If they fail, 2d10 damage that ignores all but arcane armor.
Wow, nice.
If you wanted to essentially like force squeeze somebody, or I don't know, like just telekinetically like close off somebody's carotid artery or something. Yeah. Sorry, I get a little excited when something like that happens.
Oh man, you are a savage animal.
I am, man. I am. Or I got something wrong with me. But yeah, I just wanted to jump up there and tell you that really quickly. The character creation is really, I mean, you can be like the typical archetypes, from a Western sort of feel, bounty hunters, prospectors, and everything. But really what sort of turns this on its head is the fact that there are, these different types of abilities and powers.
Yeah. I was reading through the new hindrances and stuff. It's like several new hindrances are available to spacers in Deadlands, Lost Colony. Aelin, well, that was available back in the original Deadlands. Cursed, that was also available back in the first one. Grim Servant of Death, also available in the first one.
They're all the old ones, but they're new to Savage Worlds in this sense, though. They're new to Suede. But no, it's awesome too, because I got a kick out of them. Because it wouldn't be Deadlands if you didn't have like Lion Eyes and Aelin and Grim Servant of Death.
Right.
And you know what that means too, if they got Grim Servant of Death, which is, have you ever had a character, anybody ever take that? I've had people take that. That's always a weird little hindrance to take.
Well, it's like most of these things, you'll find them in other ones, like zero G sickness. That's basically just what you would call it, seasickness out of 50 fathoms reskinned, right? Yep. It's sort of the same thing there, but still cool. The lack of gravity makes you throw up.
Right.
Heavy sleeper is the same thing in Deadlands. You get penalties if you're asleep when something happens. And I had a real fun time with this in my kid. In this one, we were playing Don't Drink the Water, and my kid was sleeping when the zombies attacked. So he's snoring up a storm, and he's taking this heavy sleeper hindrance. The zombies are attacking, guns are blowing off, and Michael's shooting people. He's blam, blam, and my kid's not waking up because you have to get a certain card on the draw, right? And he wasn't getting the card. So for 3 or 4 rounds, he's just like, right? So then Michael's like, he starts kicking the tent. He's like, get up, we're under attack, we got zombies. So I'm like, okay, I'll give you a plus to your roll because you're trying to help out, trying to wake him up. Anyways, yeah, he wakes up and Michael's yelling at him. He's like, we got zombies out here. My kid's like, I'm not even going to get out of the tent. He had the hindrance, or no, the edge named weapon or famous weapon kind of a thing. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. So he's got that on his rifle. So he gets bonuses to shooting, and he pulls his gun out. He's like, I'm just going to take a random shot into the dark. So I'm like, okay, you're going to shoot at like a -6. This is going to be impossible. Damn if he doesn't ace and roll like 20 something and then roll like 30 something. He doesn't even get out of the tent, man. He just like grabs his rifle, aims in a direction, squeezes the trigger, and blows a zombie to smithereens. Right? It's like, oh man, hits with the raise. You cannot go wrong with that. But I find that that's kind of one of the disappointing things about this book is like, okay, so sure, I'm sure under some term you can call these new hindrances, but really, if you just go back to Deadlands, you can find them pretty much, right?
No, they're reskinned. They're just, in fact, they're reskinned and they're updated. In fact, a lot of the edges are edges are too in that sense, because Banshee Born might as well be what is it? Might as well be like native, like the Native American edge or something like that, or like Indian Brave or whatever it is there in Deadlands. But they do have some interesting ones, though. I mean, of course, you got Veteran of the Way Out West, which is, they've had that, and that, I've seen that
also from Deadlands. Quick Draw also from Deadlands.
This one's actually different though with the quick with this one though, this being two because you can now spend a penny to get a card in Adventure Edition, or to get a new card if you're not happy with what you got. So what you can do is you can spend a penny and it's going to give you 2 additional cards, and you can and if you have like Level Headed or Quick, one of those edges that lets you get multiple cards, it stacks with it. That's interesting to me. They have a lot of these edges that stack with these other edges, so they're saying. We already know that this is going to, like, you can take Brave, for instance, if you want to do this, but if you really want to be good, if you really want to, like, stave off these fear tests, you can take Guts to get a free reroll, and you can take Grit down the road, which is going to give you a bonus to, these fear tests. Because, I mean, this is Deadlands, man. There's going to be fear levels you're going to have to worry about, brah.
Yeah, I like to see that back in here. Some of the areas do have fear levels. That was a cool thing that I really liked in Deadlands. So Guts is I don't want to say back in, but it's now it's an edge that you can take, which is pretty cool. Grit, like you said, Harrowed is right out of Deadlands. And then Tannis Bond and Tannis Touch. Those are some of the weird edges that you want to take if you want to manipulate the weird rock stuff that they have on this planet. And then, other than that, this book goes where? This book goes into gear, equipment. What else we got? Vehicles, spaceships. We start talking about things like fuel, repairs, because you're in a desperate sense being stuck way out here. There's nobody's coming. This planet is very unhospitable. It's not like you're taking up farming or any of that kind of stuff, right? So. And with the gate closed, you're not getting supplies like you used to, so everything is very scarce and extremely expensive. But you can still do some cool stuff, like if you want to play Wild West on the planet and go do some exploring and whatnot, and maybe go check out some ancient ruins. You've got those for options. Or if you want to shoot off into space, go try and mine some ghost rock to make some money. The whole premise, too, with this thing, and this also ties into the salvage, is that you can do missions inside of this thing where you're just out to get money. You're going to salvage some ghost rock and take it, because one of the things that it says in here is, like, if you can find it, somebody out here will buy it, because this is like sort of the apogee of recycling, because there ain't shit out here for you.
No, you got to make it or break it. I mean, or you break it or make. That's pretty much it. There's nothing. No, you can't. There's no Amazon, sending you anything out here. You gotta live pretty Spartan. You gotta live sort of like, you gotta be very resourceful, like the Native American did. You got to use all parts of the spaceship, man. You can't throw away the guts and the innards. It's kind of funny too. You bring up a good point here, because you can totally blow off the plot point campaign. You can totally blow off the sort of the meta plot and everything that goes on here. You can totally play this as for what it is. You're off on another planet. This is what's going on. You're a colonist, you're a settler, you're whatever. You could be a colonial ranger. You could be a former an X-Force soldier that's decided to kick it here. You don't have to go into a lot of the lore that Deadlands has. You can just play it as is.
Yeah, this is literally Deadlands. A couple hundred years. This is Wild West, a couple hundred years in the future. So you have laser guns and that kind of stuff, right? We're talking spaceships, zero G, vacuum, that kind of stuff, which is it's just wickedly cool. There is spaceships that you can get, like the X4 destroyer or the X4 dropship. There's freighters that you can pick up. There's high tech like Land Rovers and stuff that are like sort of like fast moving tanks on the ground and that you can pick up. They all have slots that you can modify them. Like there's remaining mod slots, so you could put like some kind of alcohol-based flamethrower on the front. Right. You know what I mean? Just cool things like that to modify your situation. You could explore the planet of Banshee and go into different ruins and stuff, or you could go up into space and fart around up there in one of the, you want to go for a night at the brothel there on that weird moon, kind of a, that rock floating around. So
knock yourself out.
Yeah, there's the setting rules are 0G. There's vacuum rules for vacuum. This is funny. Any port in a storm. Docking a space station or spaceport is a pretty mundane procedure. Anyways, that's a reference to just having sex with whoever. Any port in a storm, right?
Right.
There's a whole thing on gravity drives and how gravity can be manipulated with these gravity drives and stuff. What else we got? Limitations, navigations, system travel times. So, there's things like that, getting from one part of the solar system to the other. There's a section on space combat.
Which is, space combat is pretty much, it's just, it's using the chase rolls.
Yes.
It gives you some different modifiers to use in that sense, like because space is so big, like when you happen to roll on the out of control table or like roll on the critical injury table, there's some things that, you have to keep into consideration. Because it is deep space, but for the most part, man, space combat is done with the chase rules. And I'll go on record here to say I really enjoy the chase rules, man. That's what I use my oversized deck that I got with my Savage World Essential kit. My oversized deck.
Wow.
Deck. DECK.
Oh.
Right.
I was like, man, you got a little something extra. Yeah, you got a little something extra with your Savage Worlds box set.
They like me over there. But
6970, Anouk Shaman. So this is a section called No Man's Land. We talk about the shaman, a little bit about them, the Azulu. That's sort of there's a little bit on trappings, like how their spells are going to look and stuff like that. There's some stuff on new powers, and then you said you liked the Breakers. Was it the Breakers or the Psychers? The Psychers.
The Psychers. Yeah, I think the Psychers are the Psychers kind of have me the most intrigued. But that's not to say there's also these Guardians too, which is really kind of weird once you think about it. But it's sort of like the inverse of the Herod.
Okay.
So the Herod, the Herod come back. The Herod died. Like you're kicking it on Banshee. You're living your life. You're living your best life as an Anouk. And what do you know? You get killed by a colonist. Well, Banshee's not ready for you to croak just yet, so it resurrects you. And actually, if you happen to be Banshee born too, so if you're human and the planet loves you too. And you happen to croak, doing whatever, maybe doing your thing. Banshee decides that like, nah, it's not done with you yet. And you get resurrected and you become a champion, a Banshee, and they call themselves the Guardians. And you get some nice crap right out of the gate as a Guardian.
Wow, that's cool.
Yep. To your connection to Banshee's powerful life force, instead of making you get a natural healing roll every 5 days, you being a Guardian, you get a natural healing roll every day. So if you're wounded, every day, roll you some dice to heal. You're going to get some extra toughness, and you're going to get +2 vigor rolls to resist like fatigue and poison. And also too, you have to. There's always a drawback to it, but it's pretty much you come back and you have to become you're driven to protect Banshee and all of its creatures. So you're not going to let anybody nuke the place. So you're going to put if you're going to find old General OK there, with his carpet bombing tactics and everything like that, and his scorched earth kind of, behavior, yeah, you probably want to put his head on a pike after that.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that's exactly right. I was just reading the breakdown, the new breaker power. So breakdown is used to rend physical matter into its component parts. So I guess that is organic and inorganic, right? This was once part of the process of creation, but since the X4 virus breakers can break down matter faster than they did before, but you just can't make anything. So the breaker targets an item or being. If there you go, man, or being. And if his transmute roll is successful, causes 3d6 damage against its hardiness or toughness, or 4d6 with a raise. So yeah, I guess you can actually start taking people apart, man. I want to put some nanobots on your wiener, dude.
No, be the other one. Make it bigger.
They can't create anymore. They only tear stuff apart.
Oh, son of a bitch.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and targets with heavy armor are more resistant, but you can always apply that heavy modifier for to break through that heavy armor to eat that stuff up. So yeah, just imagine like a big swarm of like nasty small like robot termites just like shredding like concrete walls, or like even like shredding somebody's leg. This is what happens. You get in my house.
Man, you got some serious bed bugs.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm not playing.
God. The Harrowed are basically, like you said, they're like the Guardians. They're just dead. Come back from the dead kind of a thing. There's a whole bunch of information on how to play them. And then the Psychers. So there's a little bit of history on the Psychers and what they get. Is there anything cool that they can do with their... So they get the squish thing, right? Is what you were saying?
Yeah. What they... The Psychers, they've been around for a while, and what they like, some of the things that they end up doing. It's sad though because their heavy use of mental powers. You can't grow any hair, so a lot of them will just sort of like lean into that, and so get a bunch of tattoos, and so that's kind of cool. These guys also, they start off more these guys are more because they straight up are psionic, so they get 3 powers and they get 10 power points, and they have there's a whole list of powers that they have. In fact, they probably, out of anybody, they have like, they're more. I'd say their options or powers is greater than anybody else's within the setting here. What's cool about a Psyker, and like a lot of people don't think about it too, but Psychers use mental powers. They don't need to like gesture or use their hands or smack the microphone stand like I do. They can, if they're bound, they can just use their powers. Like being tied up don't mean shit.
Yeah, I like the first power that I came across here, which is a power that I actually have called Backwash. And how I use this power is when I take a drink of my soda pop, I use Backwash to keep anybody else from drinking it. That's a power I have.
That's a good power.
Oh my God. Telekinetic squeeze. Very cool. And then we go into the Marshal's background, which is a section I don't want to touch. This is going to sort of tell the game master the truth about what's going on. All the information that we've supplied so far is from sort of the player's handbook. So just listening to this podcast and us talk about this, if you're going to play this game, tell your party to listen to this podcast. They'll have a pretty good understanding of who's who, what's going on here, or maybe not. Maybe we're just like completely like ridiculous and we didn't get anything across in any of those points. But the rest of this, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying I lean towards the latter. I think I think it's about 50-50. We know about half of it, and then we kind of like bullshit our way through the other half. So I think that's a good mixture. I'd say that's pretty fair. It's better than the Weatherman. Right?
Hell yeah. The Marshal's background has a lot of cool stuff. It tells you about the planet, Paradise Lost, different places, Ghost Rock, Hellstrom. It tells you about things that you can do while you're down here, the fear levels of different places and stuff, and the backgrounds on things like Tunnel Station and what's going on there and what's really going on in Goliath's Belt. The Great Wastes, it tells you all about the toxic jungle. These are all things that you would know about if you landed here. People are going to talk about them in common conversation. But the actual details of what's going on in these places, and how they sort of maybe tie into the quest. Tornado Alley is pretty cool. You're talking tornadoes that roll through here that are like, 100 miles wide kind of a thing. But there's this stuff in here. One of the classes you can be is called a Snapjack or something like that.
Yeah.
And so these trees have sort of learned to, or developed to live in Tornado Alley. When the tornado comes in, it tears them all over, but they're called snapback trees. So they have this cool like rubber stuff you can go pull out of them. And because once the tornado goes through, they bounce back up, right? So there's a whole thing on Tornado Alley, the 2 different continents, 1 and 2. What else you get? There's some stuff on Vanessa and what's going on with her. And what's going on with these different places, like who's running the belt, the coups. So yeah, there's like a full expanse feeling going on here. There's some cool stuff on the Harrowed, little backstories on them, gravity drives, where they came from. And then there is an adventure generator at the end of this deal here too, that I don't think we're really going to have time to get into the adventure generator because we're pumping an hour and a half already. Yeah. So tell me about the adventure generator. Give me a solid 5 minutes on this. And did you like it? This one was good too?
Oh, yeah. I like this one especially, too, because anytime you get to pull out the deck of cards, it's always fun because you're not only just worrying about a number, but you can also utilize a suit and the card number as well. So you can get like you can sort of double dip when you get use generators over here. What you get with this one, it's sort of basic. You get an objective, and so the first one, with the clubs, it'll give you a baseline. Clubs probably means expected beginning. Diamonds can mean work for hire. Hearts can be character motivation. Spades means old friend and enemy. And the card number itself can reflect, for example, like 7 can mean rescue. You're called out on the mission, to rescue somebody, human and nook, from their captors. So
okay, so if you pulled a 7 of spades.
Yep. If I pulled, in fact, I got a deck of cards here just really quickly.
Right, flip them over.
I actually have the Ace of Hearts right here.
Okay, so what does the Ace of Hearts get me?
Ace of Hearts gets you, so your character motivation, the objective is one of the crew's hindrances or past actions draws the group into the adventure. So if I don't know if you're curious, that's a big one. Mm-hmm. So let's say that you found out about something. So Ace brings you shoot 'em up. Despite their best, so this is the objective. Despite their best efforts, or maybe because of them, a fight or battle has broken out, and the adventurers find themselves smack dab in the middle of it.
Nice.
So you got somebody who's curious, wants to find out what the commotion's going on over here in one of the settlements. Somebody over here wants to go check out what's going on in Ghost Rock City, because they're so curious. They just want to know. Maybe they got a friend, maybe they got a family member that's hanging out over there. So as soon as you go over there, you come and find out, as soon as you wander right up on it, there's a big skirmish. But yeah, it lays out like that because you're gonna lay out another set of cards here for the next go around, the obstacle. So here we go. We got a 7 of diamonds.
Okay.
Famine, so that goes to the obstacle to famine. So supply and fuel shortages are always a part of Faraway. That's why they're fighting, because they're running out of fuel or something to that effect. And so we go look at 7 here. Competition. Another group of adventurers smells money, either on the posse or on its objective. The crew has to pay them, fight them, or otherwise dissuade them. These usually include some wild cards. So
okay, cool.
While they're gonna have.
You're competing for Dropbox fell out of space, because there is sometimes there's space debris or whatever that falls from there's part of a thing, spaceship or something up there that actually every once in a while rains down as part of So yeah, let's say a cargo container or something like that smashes down, and you're going to race there with these guys competing to get there. Okay, cool. So that's an obstacle. The first one was the objective. The second one is the obstacle. Oh, wait a second. We got to tie that into the first one, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
So the objective was curious. Now, so what's okay, I'm going to shut up and you do your obstacle.
All right. So here's what's going to happen is this is essentially this is the complication of the obstacle right here. What you have to do. All right. So the complication, we have a 7 on here. And so there weren't any real twists or turns to the complication, but it's a tough one. So any skills that we got to do to face this, take a -2 penalty. So it's just hard.
Nice.
It's just hard. You just got to deal with this crap. These guys that you're competing against, man, that you're trying to race to try to here. Here, let me finish this one because we got 9 here. Malfunction. An important piece of equipment malfunctions, breaks down, or just goes missing at the worst possible time. So we have 6 seeds laid out in front of us, and so we got the objective, we got the overall objective, and we got the specific objective, which is we're character motivation. Somebody's curious, wants to go check out something that's happening on the other side of, over on another town. That despite their best efforts, a fight battles out. So yeah, maybe they just find out somebody wants to check out something that's going on on another settlement. Find out that the Nooks and humans are fighting because we go into the obstacle because there's a fuel shortage going on, and also too, it turns out that somebody else is competing against what's happening. So maybe the X4, you got some X4 people who are trying to step in and lay down the law beside, what's going on there in that village. You don't want X4 to go in there because X4 is generally trouble, and the complications are because they are X4 friggin', since they're X4, they're probably elite. These guys are probably elite troopers, and so you're just gonna have a hard time dealing with them. So you're gonna take a -2 to all that. And let's see here, and the last one here was 9. So an important piece of equipment malfunctions or breakdowns or just goes wrong at the worst possible time, man. Whatever your vehicle freaking craps out right in the middle of what's going on. So there you go.
Starting to feel like Lost in Space here all of a sudden.
Right, just everything's starting to kind of go wrong. But yeah, these are some these are some weird cards. But yeah, that's what you got right there. That's the core of anything. You can spin that around into anything right there.
Yeah. there's so much in this book. So we're not even, like I said, we're halfway through this book. So there's still a plot point campaign going on in here. There's a whole bunch of like I don't know what you call these little like, you know, what, half a page or 1 page adventures that they got going on inside here as well. In the back of the book, you've got all the equipment lists. You've got a bunch of bad boys. You got a bestiary going on here still. And and when it's all said and done, you've wrapped up to like 190 pages, including the index. So layout, artwork, art design, everything about this, the way that it looks, it has that sort of rusty copper kind of sort of Fallout post-apocalyptic feel to the layout of the book. The artwork, even down to like the text that they chose to write all the stuff in, is just amazing. Absolutely amazing. This is a stunning looking product, man. I cannot say enough good things about it. The art is on point. The look of the book is on point. The images that they pick with the dinosaurs and the different races, and how you've sort of got this tie-in of like old jungle, huge alligators in some images in swampy areas. And then in other ones, you see this like high-tech sci-fi pilot guy with the helmet walking down like a Shadowrun looking, you know, neon lit hallway kind of a thing, right? So, and you know, Texas Rangers on 1 page. Yeah, wow, this is so well put together and it looks awesome. Now, the only thing that I don't like about it, actually there's 2 things. I don't know if you've got any, but I'm going to start with mine. The Banshee map looks welfare. Page 21. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Good thing is this is still the beta, so maybe some of the artwork's going to clean up. No, I'm not 100% happy with the map too, because I'd like to see it a little bit bigger.
Maybe a 2-page like they did in 50 Fathoms.
Right. And also too, yeah, I think the font choice makes it look a little sparse. I think that's what it is. It's sort of, I agree with that. And it sort of just looks like it's sort of like slapped on. So maybe it's just a placeholder map.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm hoping. It literally looks like it was stuck in this book completely out of place, right? It's just weird. There's no border around it. It takes up the whole page, and it looks like somebody, maybe photoshopped it all together, kind of a thing. It's kind of like a sort of a hot mess. Other than that, here, is there anything else? Is there anything you didn't like about it that sort of was like, nah?
I haven't gotten into the plot point campaign because I'm trying to stay away from it right now, because what I like to do is I want to run with like doing the adventure generator first and like kind of do my own thing. So I can't really give a full, like, honest evaluation because I haven't read the plot point campaign. So I'm gonna leave it at that. But other than that, everything that I've read so far, I've really, really kind of, enjoyed.
Okay. So you're probably going to jump on the bandwagon and smash me for saying this. Not that you're a social justice warrior by any means, but can we please just F off with the hers and the she's, like the only people that are reading this book are females? Now, I get the gist of why we're doing it, right? This to me just stinks of frickin' pendulum justice. Like for so many years we grew up in a society where, it's male dominated and all of the artwork was, half-naked women and all of this stuff. And women were sexualized in RPGs and stuff. But Savage Worlds is not going to fix the problem or address what happened in the past by swinging the pendulum the complete opposite way and having everything read as she and her, or, her abilities, this character. There's so many spots where this pops up. Can we not just, instead of going from full like he and him and her, which is what we used to do, which is why Pinnacle is where they're at now, to them, they, do you know what I mean? Can we just pick the middle ground? We don't have to go from being a-holes and always saying him, her, and stuff, and ruling the roost, to swing the pendulum the complete opposite way, and now everything is female. Like, let's just pick the middle ground and apologize for our wrongs, not try and right them by going this direction. Absolutely, I'm reading this thing, and I'm like, oh man, F off. Here we go again. Are you kidding me? There's a couple of spots in here where I was looking through it, and it's like her skills, or she would do this, and it's like, I'm reading this as a dude, and like I say, I get why they do it, but the whole social justice warrior thing can suck it. Do you know what I'm saying? And sorry to say, but Pinnacle and Savage Worlds, you're not going to correct the problem. You don't need to apologize for what happened in the past by going the exact opposite way and making everything her with all the female pronouns. Let's just be generic in the middle. Can we do that? Because that was like I was yeah. Right? I'm going to get hate mail for this, but I don't care. An Anook shaman uses her faith skill to access banshee powers and channel it through her. What if I'm a dude? Can it not say an Anook shaman uses the faith skill to access banshee's power and channel it? And leave it at that. Write it generic so that you're not putting sex into the equation. Let's get sex out of this. It's driving me mental. Anytime I read that, I'm like, oh, it just kind of makes me vomit up a little social justice spew in my throat. It's the only thing that I didn't like about this, and it's the one thing that Savage Worlds, for whatever reason, is starting to write into all their books. And I just want to say, you guys don't have to be the guys that are trying to, remedy the situation or fix the problem of or make amends for. If you want to do anything, just make it neutral.
Yeah, you can do that.
Thanks, pal. I appreciate your vote of confidence there. I appreciate your support.
I will say though that I try to keep my personal politics out of doing this or anything like that too. But I will say though, I remember that there was something that came up there so that Pinnacle tries to make. I remember one time that they tried to make the GM's voice female and the player's voice male. That they had that going on, so they kind of split the difference in that sense. That they when somebody like the GM, they would call the GM female and then they would call the player male. And I remember, I think that's kind of how they rolled in Deluxe, and I think they kind of do that with Suede a little bit. But I guess I just didn't notice that there was a bunch of everything was targeted towards the the female pronoun or anything.
So here's the gimmick is really like, I get what you say, you're trying to keep your politics out of it, and so am I. But it feels like Pinnacle isn't. It feels like they're trying to put their politics in it by doing that and not just remaining neutral. They're maybe they're doing a 50-50 thing, and I just don't realize it because every time I see her, it just sticks out as like, maybe that's just me, male, chauvinistic, whatever. I don't know what you want to call it, but do you know, like, and so, man, I don't know if it was in this book or if it was in another one that I was reading. I don't know who thought of this, but man, Debbie Dallas is in here somewhere. Did you see that?
It's in this book right here. Yeah.
Okay. I just come on, Debbie Dallas. Are you fucking kidding me? You don't know the most prominent friggin' porno movie that was ever made, Debbie Does Dallas, and you have a character in your book named Debbie Dallas, and you're trying to be like, gender, whatever, flow on either side, and this is the shit that you put in there? Like, seriously? I guess from what I get, I know that they're I guess fairly religious, so maybe they don't watch porn. But somebody along the way, is not religious. You look at the people that have written in this book and some of the names, even the interior art. Like, not one of these persons spoke up and said, "Hey, Debbie Does Dallas is a porno movie that is like super famous, like Behind the Green Door, and you got a character in here whose name is Debbie Dallas." Like, okay, rant off.
No, that was
Rant
awesome.
off. Let's just be done with it and stick gender neutral. It's like when you go on Twitter and I see all these people that have little rainbows by their names. If I don't approach you and say, "Hi, my name is heterosexual Gary," right? Do you see what I'm getting at? Like, if you're coming at me with sex, not your sex, but your sexual preference. If that's how we're starting a conversation, all you're going to see is my ass walking away from you. Like, I don't do it to you. I don't know why people think it's okay to, "Hi, I'm homosexual so and so," or I'm bi gender neutral. I don't give a shit. You're just a person. Don't start a conversation with your sex or how you like to have sex or who you want to have sex with by having an icon that says that. I might cut that part out. But I'm not cutting out the other stuff. But it just fucking drives me mental. Like, the only people on Twitter that I have banned are people that are just like, I'm a gamer, and they have to be like super out there about it. Like, I don't do that. I don't walk around telling everybody that I have sex with a regular, like that I'm a cis male Gary. What? If sex is, I want to play a role-playing game, man. I don't want to discuss your sexual politics. That's not what I'm here for.
No, I try to leave. I try to leave all that stuff out of it, man. I'm not trying to role play any sex. I'm not trying to do all that stuff. And and honestly, like, I don't think it's ever going to come across. I mean, if you want to give somebody flavor or something like that, I think diversity. I don't think there's anything wrong, but it's never anything that has ever been a focal point of anything that I've wanted to do role playing wise.
Right. I feel that's how I feel. Like, it's the same for me. I don't care what you are. I don't care which way you fly, who you want to have sex with. None of that stuff bothers me. I'm very liberal when it comes to that. But what I'm against is you throwing it in my face and making it the first thing that I see. Like, I don't want to know what you do with your time. Like, if you want my support to help you get your rights, since I'm there, I'm voting for you. Mm-hmm. But let's not start every conversation with that. Hi, I'm cis male Jay, and I'm cis male Gary. Somebody was talking about that today. I think in the Nerds International thing. I think it was Jimmy Parton. Basically, this girl at one of the conventions that he went to basically made everybody stand up and introduce themselves with their pronouns.
Right.
Go after your hat, man. Like, just get away from me. You're a scary, weird, crazy individual. If you want me to start off, I'm heterosexual, so and so. I'm cutting this part out because we're getting long here. So it drives me mental, man. And I just don't think Pinnacle needs to put this her and his shit in the book. Let's get it out. I know that you want to be inclusive, but what next? What about all the not the hims and hers? What about all the neutrals? Now we're going to start putting them in here too, just to be inclusive. Like, at some point, you got to draw a line, Jay. That's all I'm saying.
Draw a line.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
Okay. On to the outrow. On to the outrow. I said it wrong twice. All right, that's it for this edition of the Murder Hobo RPG. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you didn't, we hope you get eaten by a brain crawler, which is one of the creatures in the new Lost Colony. Crawls up, goes inside your spine, eats your brain, does all sorts of cool stuff.
Yep, as it should. If you're interested in some community questions, which we didn't cover today, but that's all right. We can talk about this in the future. So you can hear us poke fun at you and otherwise not answer your question honestly. You can do so at murderhoboshow@gmail.com. Otherwise, send your hate mail to crap.
You can also get me on Twitter at The Murder Hobo Show, on YouTube at The Murder Hobo Show, where I show you how to make three-dimensional battle maps for role-playing in Tabletop Simulator, the best online virtual tabletop, hands down, bar none, my opinion, suck it. You can watch me do this live on Twitch sometimes at The Murder Hobo Show, or your best bet is to catch up with me and Jay at MeWe. As always, you can find all of the great nerds from Nerds International shows on MeWe as well. For example, such classics as, what are we doing this time?
Finding the Narrative.
Oh man, what's going on over there with those guys?
Yeah, that's what I want to find out. Hopefully, everything you just, we're talking about, the current situation over there at Fantasy Flight Games. So hopefully those guys are great. Hopefully they're still going to have a lot to talk about. Well, I imagine there's going to be a lot to discuss here coming in the future. But I'd like to just wanted to give a shout out to those guys, man, and see what's going on with them. You can find the things we discussed in the show notes organized by most recent at the top over at murderhoboshow.podbean.com.
Yes, thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in next time. We're going to have another action-packed show where we're going to talk about things we know little to nothing about and sound professional doing it. Have a great gaming week, everybody.
This is Uncle Jay saying, yippee-yi-yay-kay, mother effers.
Wow, this is Murder Hobo saying, we hope you enjoyed the Lost Colonoscopy episode. Have a great gaming week. Say goodbye, Jay.
Goodbye, folks.
The Murder Hobo Show is not affiliated with or endorsed by any companies mentioned on this show. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are on property and copyright of their respected owners. All items are used under fair use and educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of the Murder Hobo Show, copyright 2019. All rights reserved.